Market Mantra, Market Mantra, Market Mantra, Market Mantra, Market Mantra, Market Mantra, Mantra.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to this edition of Market Mantra, the program that gives you a complete update on the economic news of the day. And today, we'll also be taking calls from you on any queries that you may have on economic, business, or stock market matters. But do remember that as a policy, we don't address company or stock specific queries. You can call us on 2331 4444, 23717106 and 2342 1050. And if you're calling from outside Delhi, please prefix the STD code, that's 011 before the numbers. I am S. Rangabashyam, and with me is my co-anchor in Hindi, Vibhuti Mishra.
धन्यवाद एस रंगाभाष्यम। नमस्कार श्रोताओं, मार्केट मंच के ताज़ा अंक में आपका स्वागत है। आधे घंटे के इस कार्यक्रम में हम लाएंगे आप तक तमाम आर्थिक और व्यापारिक और शेयर बाजार की खबरें, साथियों पर चर्चा भी करेंगे। यहाँ बता दें कि कार्यक्रम में किसी कंपनी विशेष या स्टॉक के बारे में जानकारी नहीं दी जाती है। हमारे 3 टेलीफोन नंबर्स हैं 2331 4444, 2371 7106 और तीसरा नंबर है 23421050। इस पर फोन करके आप सवाल भी पूछ सकते हैं। दिल्ली से बाहर के श्रोता इन नंबरों से पहले 011 हमेशा की तरह अवश्य डायल करें। स्टूडियो में चर्चा के लिए आज आमंत्रित हैं वित्तीय विश्लेषक डॉक्टर यामिनी अग्रवाल। यामिनी जी, कार्यक्रम में आपका स्वागत है।
धन्यवाद।
और अब अंग्रेजी में हेडलाइंस के साथ मौजूद हैं मेरे सहयोगी एस रंगाभाष्यम।
Thank you, Vibhuti. The top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to distribute about 51,000 appointment letters to newly inducted recruits tomorrow through video conferencing. Domestic stocks end flat. Sensex closes at 66,024 while Nifty finishes at 19,675. And Brent crude hovers around $93.20 per barrel.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी नई बहाली के अंतर्गत कल 51,000 लोगों को वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस के जरिए नियुक्ति पत्र सौंपेंगे। घरेलू शेयर बाजार लगभग सपाट बंद। सेंसेक्स 66,024 और निफ्टी 19,675 पर बंद। और ब्रेंट कच्चा तेल $93.20 प्रति बैरल के आसपास कारोबार कर रहा था।
Well, now for all the details and good news, in fact great news on the employment front. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will distribute about 51,000 appointment letters to newly inducted recruits tomorrow through video conferencing. He will also address the appointees on the occasion. The Rozgar Mela will be held at 46 locations across the country. The new recruits selected from across the country will be joining the government in various ministries and departments, including the Department of Posts, Atomic Energy, Revenue, Higher Education and Ministry of Defence, among others. The Rozgar Mela is a step towards fulfillment of the commitment of the Prime Minister to accord the highest priority to employment generation. The Rozgar Mela is expected to act as a catalyst in further employment generation and provide meaningful opportunities to the youth for the empowerment and participation in national development. And as you know, this is a phone-in program and an interactive program where you can call up and clear all your doubts, questions and queries with our expert. And let's start our phone call session. Our very first caller this evening is R.S. Dahiya from Delhi. Good evening, Mr. Dahiya. And what's it that you want to talk about?
Sir, good evening.
Yeah, go ahead. Put your question.
I got 2 questions. One is, what is the hawkish stand taken by the Fed of USA? Second is, what are the main reasons of the fall in the Sensex and Nifty index in the last 1 week?
Okay.
So your first question actually talks about the hawkish stand. Primarily, the Federal Reserve Bank is constantly monitoring the inflation, and because of that, it has in the previous meeting indicated that it would keep a hawkish stance if the need be to control inflation. And there is a continuous speculation that is going on in the stock markets that they are likely to keep a hawkish stance. Another thing that has affected the stock market is profit booking, because whenever the Sensex or the Nifty reaches a peak or a higher level, usually people try to book profits, and that has been also one of the reasons. There are certain sectors that have specifically picked up, and there are certain sectors which have not picked up, like the decline has been there in the IT sector as well as in certain other sectors which are there. So there are pickups that are there, and as well as falls that are there, much due to the company specific signals, but also because if the Fed takes tightening action in terms of the monetary stance, that will have a direct impact on the slowdown of the economy, especially in US, and also if the inflation doesn't get controlled in the world economies, that will also have an effect on the overall export markets and others. So IT sector was majorly affected by that.
Yeah. And Yamini, you elaborated about the Federal Reserve stance. Talking about our own, the Reserve Bank of India's monetary policy, do you think the RBI could take a cue in its next monetary policy review?
Well, the inflation has been much in control, but yet not fully in control. So they would like to see whether the interest differential is sustainable or not. RBI would take a clue from the Fed primarily to manage growth and simultaneously to accommodate the monetary liquidity in the market. So there can be a possibility of a small rise in the interest rates if the Fed also goes for it.
और इसी बीच जो है आरबीआई गवर्नर शक्तिकांत दास ने आज कहा है कि शहरी सहकारी बैंकों का एनपीए संतोषजनक नहीं है, तो वित्तीय जो लेन देन है इससे ऋणदाताओं को बचना चाहिए। ये भी जुड़ा उन्होंने आज बोला है।
जी बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं। पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स के बारे में जो उनकी फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ है उसके बारे में कॉन्स्टेंटली गवर्नमेंट ने काफ़ी स्टेप्स उठाए हैं, चाहे वो मॉनिटरिंग लेवल पे हो, चाहे रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग लेवल पे हो, और इंसॉल्वेंसी और बैंकरप्सी के जो कोड है उसकी वजह से भी काफ़ी हद तक एनपीएस को रिड्यूस करने में मदद मिली है। पर क्योंकि कोविड का समय था और कोविड के दौरान काफ़ी लोगों को मुश्किलें आईं और उस दौरान काफ़ी बिजनेसेस में लॉसेस भी हुए, तो एनपीएस जो है थोड़े बढ़ गए मॉनिटोरियम के बाद भी।
इसी बीच कोलकाता से फोन लाइन पे हमारे श्रोता हैं विकास महतो। विकास महतो जी, मार्केट मंत्र में आपका स्वागत। प्रश्न करें।
नमस्ते मार्केट मंत्रा, सभी को मेरा नमस्कार।
जी आप नमस्ते।
जी नमस्ते, प्रश्न पूछें विकास जी।
शेयर मार्केट में बारे में पूछना चाहता हूँ, स्टॉप लॉस इसका कोई परसेंटेज है या प्रॉफिट बुकिंग इसका कोई परसेंटेज है, और ये दोनों कैसे मेंटेन करना चाहिए शेयर मार्केट में?
जी देखिए, स्टॉप लॉस एक तरीका है जिसके अंदर जो आपके जो स्टॉक में गिरावट है उसको रोकने के लिए आप एक लेवल डिफाइन करते हैं अपनी ट्रेडिंग के अंदर कि अगर स्टॉक उस तक पहुंच गया तो आप उसे बेच देंगे ताकि जो आपका जो लॉस है उसे रोका जा सके। ऐसे ही प्रॉफिट बुकिंग की जब हम बात करते हैं तो प्रॉफिट बुकिंग में यूजुअली क्या होता है कि जब आप स्टॉक को बेचते हैं अपने खरीदी हुई प्राइस से ज़्यादा में तो आप उस पर प्रॉफिट बुक करते हैं, और ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जब हायर प्राइस पे बेचते हैं तो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट बुक कर सकते हैं। ये एक व्यक्ति पे डिपेंड करता है, उसकी रिस्क टेकिंग कैपेसिटी पे डिपेंड करता है कि वो कितना पे स्टॉप लॉस करना चाहता है या कितना पे प्रॉफिट बुकिंग करना चाहता है। इसका कोई स्पेसिफिक परसेंटेज नहीं होता, पर ये आपके अपने आंकलन पे निर्भर करता है कि किस पे आप करना चाहेंगे।
Right, let's move on and take our next caller. We have JS Saluja joining us from Delhi. Good evening, Mr. Saluja. And what's it that you'd like to talk about?
Good evening to the entire team of Martin Mantra and Yamini man.
Yeah,
Good evening.
Thanks.
My question is that is the bull run of chemical sector over, or is it that some good companies of chemical sector will come up once again and the run is still on? Number one. Number two question is about the run of PSU banks. They've already done a lot, but in the coming 2 or 3 years, can we invest and get good benefits? Thank you.
Okay.
Well, your first question regarding the chemical sector, it continues to be one of the important sectors, and because of the supply chains into different aspects, it does have a strong potential. Also, the way things have been becoming man-made in terms of the materials, the chemical sector does show a lot of potential. But again, it is since within each sector, it's not only chemical, but whether you take IT or you take pharma or you take any others, it is always company-specific performances which do make a difference, and one must evaluate the liquidity that is there in the stocks, as well as the possibility of the technical charts and the fundamental charts supporting them. Right from the PSU banks are a strong contender. They are 60% holder of the financial system that is there. 40% is only in the hands of the private holders. So the potential of the PSU banks continues to be the strongest, especially when financial inclusion is there. And also when digital rupee is to be launched, they will be the first key holders to be one of the guiding ones in the digital rupee as well. So they do show a strong potential in the market.
Yeah. I mean, just to bring in this point, experts like you have always been saying that the banking sector is a proxy to the economy. And since we expect the Indian economy to do well in times to come, can we see a reflection of that in the stock prices of banks overall, and more specifically in PSU banks?
Well, true, because every economic activity has to be supported with financial intermediation, and it is the financial intermediations which define the velocity of the transactions, where digitalization has proved to be quite a boom. So, and also at the same time, it has taken care of the different aspects which have added advantage to people in 24 hours, 7, 365 days empowerment, especially coming to the common man with his mobile or his other services. Also, what it also adds is, if you had seen that even in the COVID time or the others, the 59 seconds loan, in 1 minute you are granted loans, the Mundra schemes or the other schemes have empowered people to dream for their businesses or start new businesses. Even the kind of unicorns that we have produced in the startup system, and we are known as the third largest startup system, that has added the advantages. Plus, there has been a lot of innovation in the financial system, whether it is in the fintechs that we talk about, which we have somewhere or the other supported them, despite there's a talk going on the regulatory and the supervisory framework, but that has also caused financial inclusion.
And banking happens to be in the center of all this.
The banking remains the core of the aspect and has been bringing about the overall intermediation that is needed to support the economic activity.
हाँ, हमारे साथ नियमित और प्रिय श्रोता कोलकाता से जुड़ गए हैं तानु साहा, इनसे हम सवाल लेंगे, लेकिन बैंकिंग बारे में एक छोटी सी चर्चा कि अगले महीने जो है वो 5 रविवार और 2 शनिवार को छोड़कर 16 दिन बैंक बंद होने वाले हैं, अलग अलग जगहों पे अलग अलग कारणों से। तो आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे हमारे श्रोताओं को? जी
देखिए, आपका बैंक वैसे क्लोज होगा फिजिकल स्ट्रक्चर में, पर नेट बैंकिंग और आपके जो डिजिटल पेमेंट सर्विसेज आपकी 24/7 365 डेज आपको अवेलेबल हैं। अगर आप ऑनलाइन इंटरनेट पे जाएं तो आप RTGS भी कर सकते हैं, NEFT भी कर सकते हैं, और आप अगर भारत पे से करना चाहें तो आप पेमेंट्स भी कर सकते हैं।
नो डिस्ट्रप्शन,
तो कोई डिस्ट्रप्शन नहीं है, आपको अवेलेबल है।
आपका स्वागत है मार्केट मंत्र में, प्लीज आस्क अ क्वेश्चन।
My question is what would be the future of hotel industry in India in regards situation of inflation high even?
We can't hear you, Mr. Saha. If you can please be a little louder.
Oh, sorry. What would be the future of the hotel industry in India in the regard of inflation high and also the bank interest high in this situation?
So hospitality sector.
Okay, so actually the COVID period has been the most hard hitting for the hotel industry or even the tourism industry, but I would like to tell you that tourism has been one of the key factors which the government has been constantly focusing upon in developing not only the different local sites as well as the different different specific designs of the local arrangements that are there to promote it. Even in G20 there was a crafts mela that was there. Also you must have seen that any places whether it was Sabarmati Ashram or whether it was the Konark Wheel, everything reflected the different aspects of the Indian culture and the monuments that we have and we have been developing. Also, there's a strong focus that is there now even on the internal inward tourism. Specifically, if you look at UP and various Uttarakhand and other places where religious tourism is also being promoted, both by in terms of providing a better infrastructure and support to places like ghats or others which are being developed for people who have been going there. Hotel industry has quite a strong positioning over there if they mark themselves for both the inward tourists and the outward tourists.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll agree, Yamini, that post-COVID, this phrase had come of revenge tourism, and the pent-up demand actually showed up in the last, 1.5, 2 years.
True, because a lot of people have not traveled and they have been feeling suffocated back at home because somewhere or the other they need a place to go, and that has caused a lot of demand that is there.
That's true. Yeah. Let's move on and take our next caller. Let's go down south to Bengaluru, where we have NR Prasad joining us. Good evening, Mr. Prasad, and what's your question?
Hi, good evening, Market Mantra. This is NR Prasad from Bangalore.
Yeah.
Just one point, Mr. Rangabashyam. Last week, the trading was closed because of the festival on Monday.
Yeah.
And your anchor said that today there is no trading and on account of Ganesh Chaturdashi. She repeated twice. Ganesh Chaturdashi is supposed to be Ganesh Chaturthi.
Chaturthi, yeah, that is true. That is true.
Just I thought I'll bring it to your notice.
Okay, the point well taken.
There's one question from my side.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, JP Morgan has included India in their index debt market. And followed by FPI inflow during September has crossed 10,000 crores. So would it have a positive on the Indian market? Would it cross again back to 67,000 or 68,000 during the month of September? This is my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, India is a bright spot in the world markets today, and whether it's JP Morgan, Moody's or any others, the credit ratings, similarly the international prospects by the international agencies like IMF or the World Bank have been positively reflecting upon the growth as well as the reform stories in India. So when we talk about the market and its growth potential, most of us have been looking at an ambition of 2047 as a developed economy for our country. So I do believe that the stock markets also would follow that potential and the dream and the vision that has been seen through.
जयपुर से हमारे साथ जितेंद्र हैं, इनसे हम प्रश्न लेंगे, लेकिन उससे पहले शेयर बाजार का हाल जानने का अभी समय है। तो प्रमुख घरेलू शेयर सूचकांक आज लगभग सपाट बंद हुए। बीएसई सेंसेक्स 15 अंक की मामूली बढ़त के साथ 66,024 पर बंद हुआ। एनएसई निफ्टी सपाट होकर 19,675 पर बंद हुआ। वैश्विक शेयर बाजारों से मिले जुले संकेतों के बीच दोनों सपाट बंद हुए। बीएसई के व्यापक बाजार में मिड कैप इंडेक्स 0.46% और स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स 0.16% बढ़ा।
Well, as Vibhuti just mentioned, the key domestic share indices today closed flat. The BSE Sensex rose marginally by just 15 points to settle at 66,024. The NSE Nifty ended flat to finish at 19,675. Both indices traded flat amid mixed cues from the global share markets. In the broader markets at the BSE, the mid-cap index rose 0.46% and the small-cap index gained 0.16%. In the Sensex pack, shares of 14 companies appreciated while those of 16 companies declined. Bajaj Finance rose 4.6%, Bajaj Finserv gained 2.2% and Kotak Bank advanced 1.6%. On the other hand, Infosys declined 1.4%, Mahindra & Mahindra slipped 1.2% and Wipro fell 1.1%. In sectoral indices, at the BSE, 10 sectors gained while 10 logged losses. Realty sector was the top gainer as it surged 1.6%, followed by financial services sector which rose 0.5% and consumer durables added 0.4%. On the other hand, tech and IT, both indices declined 0.8% each. Capital goods sector fell 0.3%. The overall market breadth was negative as shares of 1,871 companies appreciated and 1,905 companies declined. A total of 169 shares, however, remained unchanged. Let's continue with our phone calls. Joining us next is Jitendra from Jaipur. Good evening and welcome to Market Mantra.
हाँ थैंक यू मैडम, जैसे अभी जो 2 दिन पहले एक रिपोर्ट आई थी कि वो बॉन्ड का लेके जेपी मॉर्गन का, वो क्या मैटर है वो, और दूसरा कि भारत पे से क्या क्या मतलब आजकल तो बहुत सा ऐप है, भीम है, तो भारत पे से क्या कोई स्पेशल पेमेंट होता है क्या?
जी नहीं, इट इज़ नॉट, ये पेमेंट की बात नहीं है, ये जो है एक पर्टिकुलर रिकग्निशन की बात है इन टर्म्स ऑफ द मार्केट्स दैट आर देयर. और जैसे जैसे इंटरनेशनल ग्रुप्स जिनके बारे में हम बात करें, अगर वो आपको रिकग्निशन देते हैं या आपकी मार्केट्स को रिकग्निशन देते हैं, उनके इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स को रिकग्निशन देते हैं, उससे आपका जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर है वो बढ़ता जाता है. तो जो जेपी मॉर्गन की रिपोर्ट आई है या जो पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट्स हैं, वो उसमें ये ज़रूरी बात है देखने का, या मूडीज़ की आती हैं कि वो भारत को कैसे दर्शाते हैं अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर.
Right, and let's take our next caller. We have Gurunath joining us from Thane, one of our regular callers on the show. Good evening and welcome to Market Mantra.
हाँ जी सर, नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
एमिनी मैम को भी नमस्कार.
जी नमस्कार.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन है, ये जो पब्लिक प्रोविडेंट फंड ये जो है, तो क्या मैम इसमें जो इन्वेस्ट के लिए जो छोटे बच्चे होते हैं, तो ये 5 साल के बच्चों का अकाउंट हम खोल सकते हैं क्या?
जी बिल्कुल खोल सकते हैं.
पिताजी के साथ मतलब ये जॉइंट में कर सकते हैं. इसकी मैच्योरिटी के बारे में बताइए और इंटरेस्ट रेट, और इसका कितना मतलब साल भर में कितना इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं? थैंक यू मैम.
जी, आप 15 साल के लिए मिनिमम इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं और बच्चे के लिए आप बिल्कुल निवेश कर सकते हैं. दूसरा, इसका इंटरेस्ट रेट 7.1% है और
That's true. And the overall limit which is there for everyone, 1.5 lakh rupees.
1.5 लाख रुपीज़ आप मैक्सिमम इसमें निवेश कर सकते हैं. 15 साल के बाद जब आपका मैच्योर हो जाए तो 5 साल के अंदर आप उसको रिन्यू कर सकते हैं.
रुपया का हाल जानते हैं. विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में रुपया आज अमेरिकी डॉलर के मुकाबले 83 रुपये 15 पैसे पर बंद हुआ. विश्व की 6 प्रमुख मुद्राओं की तुलना में डॉलर की मजबूती दर्शाने वाला डॉलर इंडेक्स दिन के कारोबार में 105.61 पर कारोबार कर रहा था.
And yeah, I mean, just to do a quick review of the stock markets, you know, at 66,000 level, and as one of our callers also said, you know, when will it reach 67 or 68? So that doesn't seem to be a big deal, you know, 1,800 points down or 2,000 points down on a index of say 67,000. But moving ahead, now we are stepping into the festive season. What all can we expect?
I think we can expect a lot of celebrations that are there, and we are also expecting a lot of investments to come through, because this is also one of the most auspicious periods for majority of the people for making the right investments across. Another important aspect is that a lot of consumer buying takes place during the month of October to December. So this is one period where maximum amount of consumer money as well as investments as well as growth is what people look at. So we can expect a higher GDP during this period. Also, inflation can affect it, but usually during the festive periods, people bank on their savings or other things to invest.
Yeah, but Yamini, would you hazard a guess, say by Muhurat trading on Diwali, can the Sensex touch 70,000?
Well, 70,000, I don't think so, but yes, we can hope for that.
इसी बीच दिल्ली से हमारे श्रोता हैं योगेश. योगेश जी, मार्केट मंत्र में आपका स्वागत है. प्रश्न पूछिए.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया शामिल करने के लिए कॉल. मेरा सवाल यमनी मैम आपसे है कि ये 2 सवाल हैं कि एक तो इन्फ्लेशन एग्जैक्टली अगर हम खुदरा निवेशक के लिए समझना चाहें क्या होता है आसान भाषा में, और क्या इसको कंट्रोल किया जा सकता है. दूसरा, बेसिस पॉइंट की हम बात करते हैं कि इतने बेसिस पॉइंट गिर गया, तो ये बेसिस पॉइंट कैसे आके आते हैं?
जी, पहली बात आपने बात की इन्फ्लेशन की। जब हम इन्फ्लेशन एक खुदरा कंज्यूमर के लिए कहते हैं, दैट आप या मैं जो एज एन इंडिविजुअल एक सामान खरीदते हैं, ख़ास तौर पे अगर आप देखें, हम वेजिटेबल मार्केट में जाते हैं और हम कहते हैं कल तो सब्जी इतनी की मिल रही थी, आज इतने ज़्यादा की मिल रही है, तो उसमें हम जो प्राइस राइज देखते हैं, और अगर वो प्राइस राइज सस्टेनेबल होता है, मतलब कि वो कंटिन्यूसली बढ़ता जा रहा है और उसी लेवल पे टिका हुआ है और उससे भी आगे जा रहा है, तो उसे हम इन्फ्लेशन कहते हैं एक आम भाषा में। हम ये सबसे ज़्यादा देखते हैं अपने खाने की चीज़ों में या अपने बाकी कपड़ों की चीज़ों में या मकान में या और चीज़ों में, जिनको आप कह सकते हैं। इसे हम एक कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स के माध्यम से मेजर करते हैं। एक इंडेक्स होता है या बास्केट ऑफ गुड्स होती हैं, उनकी क्या प्राइस लेवल्स रहे हैं उसके माध्यम से मेजर करते हैं। दूसरा आपका सवाल था कि हम कहते हैं कि इतने बेसिस पॉइंट्स गिर गया या इतने बेसिस पॉइंट्स चढ़ गया सेंसेक्स या कोई भी चीज़, वो हम बात करते हैं कि जो मार्केट होती है उसमें 3,000 से 4,000 5,000 के करीब कंपनीज ट्रेड कर रही हैं, पर उन सभी को आंकना मुश्किल है। तो जो मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन जिनका सबसे ज़्यादा होता है, उन 30 कंपनीज को जो है आइडेंटिफाई करके उनकी मूवमेंट ऊपर गई या नीचे गई, एक स्टैटिस्टिकल मेजर जिसे इंडेक्स कहते हैं उसके द्वारा किया जाता है, और फिर उसको देख करके कहते हैं कि इतना पॉइंट ऊपर बढ़ गया या उतना पॉइंट नीचे गिर गया। और बेसिस हम ज़्यादातर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स के लिए भी यूज़ करते हैं, जिसमें हम कहते हैं कि इंटरेस्ट रेट्स 100 बेसिस पॉइंट का मतलब 1%, और ऐसे ही हम निकालते हैं कि कितना पॉइंट बढ़ा या कितना पॉइंट घटा।
Right, let's take our next caller. We have Gaurav joining us from Ghaziabad. Good evening, and shoot your question quick. We are moving towards the end of the program.
Good evening. My question is about this fiscal deficit due to coming election and spending by the government, a lot of spending by the government.
Okay.
How will it affect our fiscal deficit and its effect on the stock market? Should we be cautious about it?
Right.
Well, usually during the elections, it is found that most of the governments usually make more expenditure than it is expected. So the fiscal deficits often before the elections usually go higher. But this government has been trying to consolidate it as far as possible. Though COVID has been one of the periods where we've seen highest amount of fiscal deficit, and they are trying to contain it at 6%, and according to the FRBM go to 3%. It will affect the economy in terms of inflation, and it will also affect the overall health of the economy if it goes much higher.
एशियाई शेयर बाजार आज मिले जुले रुख के साथ बंद हुए। जापान का निक्केई 0.9% और सिंगापुर का स्ट्रेट टाइम्स इंडेक्स 0.3% बढ़ा। वहीं दूसरी तरफ हांगकांग का हैंग सेंग सूचकांक 1.9%, चीन का शंघाई कंपोजिट सूचकांक 0.6% और दक्षिण कोरिया का कोस्पी सूचकांक 0.5% लुढ़क कर बंद हुआ।
Let's take a look at the crude oil prices as well. Oil prices today rose amid investors' focus on tighter supply outlook after Moscow issued a temporary ban on fuel exports. Concerns about further rate hikes also dampened investor sentiment. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $93.20 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude price was at $90 per barrel when reports last came in.
मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में आज अक्टूबर अनुबंध के लिए सोना गिरावट के साथ कारोबार कर रहा था। सोना 40 रुपये की गिरावट के साथ 58,910 रुपये प्रति 10 ग्राम पर कारोबार कर रहा था, जबकि अंतिम समाचार मिलने तक दिसंबर अनुबंध के लिए चांदी 60 रुपये की तेजी के साथ 73,400 रुपये प्रति किलोग्राम पर कारोबार कर रही थी।
Well, that's it. We'll have to call it a day. Yamini, thank you so much for joining us in the studios as always.
Thank you so much.
And we'd also like to thank all our callers for their active participation in today's program. And before we close, a quick look at the top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to distribute about 51,000 appointment letters to newly inducted recruits tomorrow through video conferencing. Domestic stocks end flat. Sensex closes at 66,024 while Nifty finishes at 19,675. And Brent crude hovers around $93.20 per barrel. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Market Mantra. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
नमस्कार।